Hey Reddit. I'm Riley, 17F. I live in Ohio, and up until a year ago, I had a pretty normal life. My mom, Dana, was the best woman I've ever known, warm, funny, fierce when she needed to be. She made the house feel like a place you actually wanted to be. I'm an only child, and we were close, not in the fake Instagram way, I mean real close. She died of a pulmonary embolism out of nowhere. One second she was complaining about leg pain, and the next, she was on the floor in the laundry room. Gone. Everything after that was a blur. The funeral. The casseroles. My dad, Connor, 46M, wandering around the house like a ghost in a man's body. At first, I pitied him. I thought maybe we'd get through it together. But just 5 months later, things took a turn. One day after school, I came home to find a woman in the kitchen. Blonde, wearing a silk robe, cooking in my mom's apron. I literally stopped mid-step. She turned to me, smiled, and said, "Oh, you must be Riley. I've heard so much about you." I'm Juliette. Juliette, 27F, was my dad's new friend. They met at some fundraising gala he was invited to through work. I found that out later. She was a dental hygienist turned lifestyle influencer, which mostly meant she posted filtered selfies with protein smoothies and daily mantras on Instagram. I figured it was a fling. A midlife crisis. I was wrong. Within a week, Juliette had taken over the upstairs guest room, my mother's craft room. Within 2, her furniture started replacing ours. The rustic coffee table my mom refinished? Out. Some glass monstrosity from Wayfair? In. Dad never asked. Just said we needed change. I tried to keep my head down. I was barely keeping up with school, therapy wasn't helping, and I just wanted to survive. Then one night over dinner, while Juliette was stabbing her kale salad with surgical precision, my dad dropped the bomb. "I think it's time we take the next step as a family," he said, grinning like a man who hadn't watched his wife die less than 6 months ago. "Juliette and I are getting married." My fork clattered against the plate. I stared at him. At her. At her smug little half-smile like she knew how much it hurt and enjoyed it. They married in Vegas. No family. No ceremony. No warning. After the wedding, she changed. She didn't even pretend to be warm anymore. Around my dad, she was sugary sweet, constantly touching his arm, giggling at his dumb jokes. But when we were alone? It was like someone flipped a switch. She started with the subtle digs. "You always look so tired. You should really try under-eye cream, sweetie. Your mom didn't leave much of a style legacy, huh? Connor says you're still struggling. Honestly, it's not healthy at your age to still be this emotional." She called me honey with the tone of someone saying idiot. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes in my room. "Laundry piles up quickly, smiley face, please rinse your cereal bowl, we all live here now." Then came the rules. I was no longer allowed to eat after 8 p.m., Juliette said late eating messes with family harmony. She began adjusting my alarm clock. She even moved my school stuff to the basement study corner to free up the living room. The worst part? My dad let her. No, worse, he encouraged it. "She's trying, Riley," he said one night when I confronted him. "She's not your mother, but she is part of the family now. You could make it easier on all of us by trying a little too." Then the moment that made my jaw hit the floor. "We'd really appreciate it if you started calling her mom." I stared at him like he'd just asked me to eat glass. "You can't be serious." He didn't even blink. It would mean a lot to her. To me. It would help make things feel whole. "She's not my mother," I said. "She's your stepmother. And she's not going anywhere." I left the table. Cried in my room. I kept thinking, how did we get here? What kind of father replaces a wife in less than half a year and tries to erase her? But Juliette didn't stop. She ramped up. She started referring to herself as mom when speaking to others. When she dropped me off at school once, she said, "Love you, babe, mom will be here at 3. In the school group chat, someone said, "Wait, you have a new mom?" And I swear, my stomach dropped through the floor. Then came the manipulation. She'd tell my dad I was cold, disrespectful, moody. that I was pushing her away. She cried in front of him. Said she was trying so hard and I was just mean. And he believed her. He told me I was the problem. That I needed to grow up. So I started documenting things. Not out of spite, out of self-defense. I installed a voice recorder under my bed. I started keeping a digital journal, time-stamped, dated, catalogued. I screenshotted texts, emails, and Instagram DMs she accidentally left open. I started taking photos of things she threw out, a framed picture of me and my mom, a book with a handwritten note from her. All gone. All logged. I had a folder on my desktop named Just In Case. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was insurance. And then Juliette made one mistake. One big, stupid, arrogant mistake. She picked the wrong person to humiliate in front of the wrong crowd, and gave me the opportunity one never knew I'd been waiting for. So, I wasn't planning to fight fire with fire. That's not me. But Juliette made it clear, I was either going to bow to her fantasy, or she was going to erase every trace of my mother from the house, from my life. And the scariest part was how easy she made it look. After the call-her-mom conversation, things at home weren't tense, they were strategically suffocating. Juliette operated like some kind of smiling tyrant. She never yelled. She never hit. But every word was a weapon, every rule had a blade under it, and my dad? He was completely blind to it. Let me give you a taste of what I mean. Day-to-day psychological warfare. Juliette had this thing where she'd clean my room without asking. She'd smile and say, I just wanted to help tidy up. But every time, something important would be gone. My mom's wedding ring, gone. I'd kept it in a small velvet box on my dresser. When I asked where it was, she said, I didn't see any ring. Maybe you misplaced it? You do tend to leave things lying around. I tore the room apart. Never found it. She replaced it with a crystal focus pyramid. Said it was for cleansing. Another time, she took down all the photos of my mom and me and put up generic family canvases, the kind you buy from Target with words like live, laugh, love in scripted font. I found the old photos in the attic weeks later, stuffed into a moldy shoebox labeled seasonal clutter. She poisoned the air in subtle, calculated moves. When she hosted brunch for the neighbor moms, she introduced me as my teenage daughter, she's still adjusting to things, poor thing. To my school counselor, she claimed I was lashing out because of hormonal instability. When I was 5 minutes late for dinner, she texted my dad, I'm really trying but she just doesn't respect me. I saw it all. I documented it all. Gaslighting at Olympic levels. The scariest moments weren't the obvious digs, they were the psychological landmines. For example, I had this gray hoodie I loved. Oversized, super soft. It used to be my mom's. I wore it to death. One day it disappeared. I asked Juliette if she'd seen it. She smiled and said, oh, honey. I think you're misremembering. You haven't worn that in weeks. Except I had. Just the day before. 2 days later, I found it, cut up into cleaning rags in the laundry room. Another time, I came home from school and she was crying on the stairs. When I asked what happened, she looked at me like I'd slapped her and whispered, Connor said you told him I was abusive. I never said that. But she told my dad I'd accused her of being mentally unstable. He confronted me. I denied it. She stood behind him silently, red-eyed and trembling, like a professional actress auditioning for an Oscar. And he chose her. Again. So I kept collecting. My hidden voice recorder caught her saying stuff like, the girl's a brat. I don't care what she thinks, she'll age out of this house eventually. Connor's a pushover. He'll believe whatever I cry about. I've been nothing but kind. If she wants to play martyr, I'll let her. I also started filming small things on my phone. Her switching price tags on returned items. Her mocking one of my dad's coworkers behind his back while smiling in their face at dinner. Her pouring wine at 11 a.m. and calling it self-care. But the voice memos were gold. She had no idea. The breaking point came one Saturday. It was a rainy afternoon, and I was sitting on the floor in the living room, sorting through my college applications. Juliette walked in and saw a framed photo of me and my mom on the coffee table. She picked it up slowly, studied it, then turned to me and said, and I quote, "You know, if Dana were still alive, your dad wouldn't be half as happy as he is now. Some women just don't know when to let go, even after death." She smiled when she said it. Calm. Controlled. Like she was testing how far she could push. I said nothing. But that's when it clicked. She wasn't just trying to dominate me. She was trying to delete me. Rewrite me. Turn me into some accessory in her curated Instagram life where she played young stepmom who saved the broken family. So I changed the plan. This wasn't going to be survival anymore. It was going to be a reckoning. I started preparing. Really preparing. First, I made backups. All the recordings, on my phone, on a USB, in Google Drive, and on an encrypted app. I even made a dummy folder labeled Calculus Notes on my school laptop and stored one of the files there. I built a private Twitter under a fake name, started logging micro-updates daily in case I ever needed a timeline. Then, I tested her. I left an old hairbrush on the bathroom counter and took a picture of it in place. 2 days later? Gone. I asked. She denied ever seeing it. I pulled up the photo. She changed tactics and said, "Oh, that brush? I thought it was trash." I marked the moment. Labeled it Hairbrush Incident, Category, Covert Disposal. My digital folder now had over 40 entries. My counselor started to notice something was off. I wasn't just sad. I was cold. Focused. Methodical. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. Because I was better than okay. I was ready. Then my dad announced the family appreciation brunch. He wanted to host something in honor of our new beginning as a blended family. Extended relatives, coworkers, neighbors. Around 30 people invited. Juliette was thrilled. "Oh, Riley," she said, "I'm thinking of doing a slideshow. Something really touching. Want to help?" I nodded. Because I knew. This would be it. The moment. All I had to do was wait. The closer we got to the brunch, the more Juliette started cracking under the weight of her own performance. She wanted the event to be perfect, like Pinterest board, color-coded placemats perfect. She turned the living room into a photo studio with soft lighting, fake plants, and a banner that said "Celebrating Family" in gold cursive. The whole thing made me want to vomit. But I smiled. I nodded. I played my role. Because I was almost there. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about truth. About making sure that when I finally exposed Juliette for who she really was, no one, not even my dad, could deny it. But that final week before the brunch? That's when things really escalated. Juliette started to spiral. Maybe she could feel the walls closing in. Or maybe she just couldn't hold up her fake personality any longer. Either way, she got reckless. She screamed at me for leaving a fork in the sink. She locked the fridge one night and said I needed to ask permission to snack. She went through my phone while I was asleep. I know because she slipped up and mentioned a meme I had only saved in my hidden folder. When I asked if she had looked through my phone, she stared at me and said, "You live under my roof. You don't get privacy." Not our roof. Her roof. That same week, she gave away 2 bags of my clothes to a donation truck, including a jacket I'd been saving since middle school because it still smelled like my mom's perfume. When I confronted her, she shrugged and said, "Letting go is part of growing up. You can't hold on to ghosts forever." I swear to God, it took everything in me not to shove her out the front door. Meanwhile, my dad was more checked out than ever. He was either working late or glued to Juliette's side like some hypnotized Labrador. When I tried to talk to him, he hit me with the classic line. "Juliette is doing her best. You just don't want to accept change." I didn't even try anymore. I just smiled, walked away, and added another entry to my collection, Conversation 47, Connor, Dismissal, Deflection. At this point, I had over 60 documented instances of her manipulation, verbal abuse, and gaslighting. I had audio of her mocking my mom's funeral photos. Video of her trashing a box of my childhood art projects and whispering, "Your dad won't even notice these are gone." Screenshots of her texting someone, maybe a friend, complaining about being stuck with a depressive stepkid who won't leave. And my favorite clip? One where she said, in her perfectly even voice, "By the time Riley turns 18, she'll be out of the house. And once she's gone, everything will be mine. Just a little longer." That was going to be the grand finale. The day before the brunch, something snapped. Juliette burst into my room at 6 a.m. with a garbage bag. "You've got until noon to clean out anything that's not presentable. I won't have guests thinking we live in clutter." What? You heard me. That stupid hoodie. Your messy desk. Your weird little grief shrine, she said, pointing to the corner where I kept photos and old letters from Mom. "This isn't a museum. It's a home." My voice was dead calm. "Touch it and I'll call the police." She laughed. "For what? Tidying up? Try me." She stood there for a long second, staring at me like she was calculating something. Then she leaned in, right in my face, and whispered, "You're not as clever as you think, Riley. No one will believe a bitter little girl over her family." She walked out. I stood there shaking, not with fear, but with something electric. Righteous. Like fire in my blood. Because she was wrong. Someone would believe me. And tomorrow, so would everyone else. Brunch day. Showtime. Juliette was in full performance mode. Hair curled. Apron ironed. Smile glued on. She floated around the house like a politician, kissing cheeks, offering mimosas, complimenting dresses. My dad looked dazed, like he couldn't believe this perfect woman chose him. I mostly stayed quiet. I helped carry out food, refilled drinks, smiled when prompted. A few of my aunts told me how lovely Juliette seemed and how lucky I was to have such a devoted stepmother. I just nodded. My hands were sweating. But I waited. Finally, after lunch, my dad tapped his glass. "Thank you all for coming," he said. "It's been a hard year. But Juliette came into our lives and brought light back into this house. I'm so proud of the family we're building together." People clapped. Juliette beamed. And then she stood up. She had a remote in her hand. "I put together a little slideshow," she said sweetly. "Just some memories from this past year, our new beginning." She hit play. The screen lit up with photos, her hugging my dad, making smoothies, posing with our golden retriever. A few awkward shots of me, clearly staged. At one point, she'd photoshopped a picture of her and my dad at a pumpkin patch to include me, but I'd never been there. The slideshow ended. Everyone clapped. And that's when I stood. "I have something to share too," I said. She froze. The smile faltered just slightly, but it was there. My dad looked surprised. "Riley?" I walked over to the TV. Pulled out a flash drive. Inserted it. And hit play. Clip 1. Juliette's voice. Calm. Clear. She's like dead weight, honestly. I'm just waiting until she turns 18 and disappears. Gasps. My dad blinked. Turned to her. Clip 2. Dana's gone. I'm the wife now. The sooner Riley learns that, the better. My dad stiffened. Juliette started walking toward the TV. I turned up the volume. Clip 3, the finale. By the time Riley turns 18, she'll be out of the house. And once she's gone, everything will be mine. Just a little longer. Silence. Someone dropped a fork. My aunt whispered, "Oh my God." Juliette laughed. Actually laughed. "This is fake," she said. She edited my voice. "This is what she does. She's unstable." I pulled out my phone. Opened the folder labeled proof. Played a video of her ripping my mom's old photo album in half. Clear as day. I turned to my dad. "You believed her over me for a year. But she's been playing you. Manipulating everyone. And I have every second of it documented." Juliette looked like she'd swallowed bleach. I faced the room. "You all thought she was this sweet, caring person. But she's been torturing me. Quietly. Deliberately. And if I didn't start recording her, none of you would have believed me. My voice was shaking. But I didn't care. I'm done being quiet. Juliette stormed out. My dad didn't follow her. And the room? Silent. No one clapped. But in that silence, I felt something shift. For the first time in a year, I wasn't just surviving. I was winning. After the audio played, after I called her out in front of 30 friends, neighbors, and blood relatives, Juliette left like a storm, fast, loud, destructive. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't apologize. She just grabbed her tote bag, snatched her car keys off the counter, and walked out the front door in her wedge heels, practically shaking with rage. Everyone watched her go through the living room window. No one moved. No one spoke. Except for me. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed the lemonade pitcher she made that morning, and dumped the whole thing in the sink. I could practically hear my mom laughing from somewhere in the afterlife. My dad, meanwhile, looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He sat down slowly, eyes wide, face blank. I think the worst part for him wasn't just the betrayal, it was the spectacle. This was supposed to be the perfect day. His redemption arc. The final chapter in how I got over my wife's death and rebuilt my life. Instead, he was the fool at the center of a scandal. Uncle Shane broke the silence. Well, he muttered, raising a paper plate, I'm gonna get another deviled egg. The spell was broken. Chairs scraped. Conversations restarted, hushed, awkward, half-whispers. And my dad just sat there, breathing like he'd been underwater too long. The real conversation started that night. Most guests were gone. My cousins helped clean up in stiff, silent motion, and then they vanished too. I was alone in the house with my dad. He found me on the back deck around 9 p.m., wrapped in a blanket, listening to music with my AirPods in. He didn't say anything right away, just stood there. Then, finally, "Can I sit?" I shrugged. He sat. It was quiet for a while. Then he spoke. I had no idea. That's all he said. Not I'm sorry. Not I failed you. Just that. I didn't answer. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. She fooled me. I pulled out one AirPod. She didn't fool you, Dad. You let her fool you. He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You didn't even listen when I said something was wrong. You told me to call her mom. He rubbed his face. I thought she was helping us heal. She was erasing Mom. Replacing her. Rewriting her out of our lives like she was a mistake. He didn't argue. He couldn't. Then he said something I didn't expect. I was lonely, Riley. I turned to him. His voice cracked a little. You don't know what it's like to lose someone you built a whole life with. Every day, I'd come home and expect her to be there. And then Juliette showed up. Young, beautiful, so bright. She distracted me. I didn't want to feel empty anymore. I didn't have sympathy left. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Mom died, and instead of grieving, you brought home a replacement Barbie doll who treated me like a squatter in my own house. He looked down. Nodded. I deserved that. Yeah. He did. The aftermath wasn't pretty. Juliette went full silent mode. No calls. No texts. No posts on her influencer account, just radio silence. My dad reached out once, but she didn't answer. Then came the real humiliation, the fallout from the guests. Aunt Lacey told me later that half the family had already suspected Juliette was off. One of the cousins caught her bad-mouthing me last Thanksgiving when she thought no one was listening. Another neighbor said she once made a joke about stepkids being like rental cars, use 'em till the lease runs out. Her perfect image crumbled. No one wanted to associate with her after that. She deleted her stepmomlife_88 Instagram within days. But she didn't go quietly. She sent a letter. Not to my dad. To me. It came in a pale pink envelope with gold cursive that said Riley on the front. I opened it while sitting at the kitchen table, heart pounding. Inside, it read. You may think you won. But all you did was break your father. That damage is permanent. You'll see. I loved you. In my own way. But you weren't ready for that. You wanted to stay in grief, and I wouldn't let you. I tried to help you grow. You retaliated. In the end, you've only made yourself smaller. No apology. No ownership. Just narcissism wrapped in pastel pink. I didn't respond. I tore it in half, then into quarters, and flushed it down the toilet. Goodbye, Juliette. My dad tried to fix things after that. He started therapy again. He offered to move out and give me the house, but I said no, not because I forgave him, but because I didn't want another loss. We re-established boundaries. We started doing Sunday dinners together, no phones. He let me redecorate the house. We took down all of Juliette's ugly fake boho garbage and repainted Mom's old study back to its original warm pine. And one night, about a month after it all blew up, he brought out a shoebox. I was going through storage, he said. Found this. Inside were things I thought were lost, my mom's recipe cards. Her old bracelets. Even the missing wedding ring. Juliette had tucked it inside a box labeled miscellaneous pantry. God knows what else she had hidden or planned to sell. My hands shook. My dad just said, I'm sorry. It wasn't everything I needed. But it was a start. And me? I felt like I'd stepped back into my own life after being locked out for a year. I still had trust issues. Still flinched when my phone buzzed unexpectedly. Still checked over my shoulder in the hallway sometimes. But I also started sleeping again. I wore my hoodie. I put my photo wall back up. I made my mom's banana bread recipe for the first time in over a year. And I applied to the college my mom had always dreamed I'd go to. I even wrote my application essay about truth, how it can be buried, distorted, and manipulated, but it always finds its way out. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. One night, scrolling Reddit, I came across a post in r/stepparents from a deleted account. It read, I tried my best with my stepdaughter, but she was impossible. Cold. Ungrateful. After everything I gave, she turned on me. Now my husband won't speak to me. My followers are gone. I'm alone. Why do teenagers ruin everything? The comments tore her apart. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot. Saved it in my folder. Labeled it, closure. Life didn't bounce back overnight. There wasn't some magical switch where the air in the house turned warm again and my dad became Father of the Year. We were still two people grieving in different ways. Still two people rebuilding from ash. But for the first time in months, the air didn't feel poisoned. Juliette was gone. Her scent, some cloying vanilla sage nightmare, had faded from the furniture. Her vision board calendar got trashed. Her spiritual alignment candles were boxed and burned in the fire pit. That was a fun night. For weeks, it was quiet. Peaceful. Too peaceful. I focused on school, started hanging out with people I'd distanced myself from. Even got a part-time job at a used bookstore my mom used to take me to as a kid. It was slow, smelled like cedar and old pages, and no one asked about my home life. Heaven. Dad was trying. He cooked dinner on Tuesdays. Left sticky notes on my mirror with dumb puns. You're extra awesome. With a picture of a fried egg. It was awkward. But better awkward than broken. I was even starting to feel, dare I say, hopeful. Then came the letter. This time it wasn't pink. It was legal. An envelope arrived on a Thursday. Plain. White. Addressed to Connor and Riley Whitaker. Inside was a formal notice. Juliette was contesting ownership of certain shared marital assets. I sat at the kitchen table reading the letter while Dad paced behind me, muttering, "You've got to be kidding me." She was suing for partial ownership of our house, because she'd contributed to its interior design and renovation, which, FYI, mostly consisted of ruining Mom's old spaces. Reimbursement for emotional labor. A portion of Dad's retirement account for future displacement costs. And my personal favorite? Damages for intentional defamation in a public setting that permanently harmed her reputation and ability to work. I laughed so hard I cried. Not from joy. From disbelief. She really thinks she can sue me for exposing her? I asked. My dad wasn't laughing. His face was pale. We need a lawyer. The next few weeks were hell. Depositions. Statements. A cease and desist letter from her attorney that said I had willfully engaged in character sabotage. We filed a counterclaim with evidence, including my audio files and video clips. Our lawyer was confident. She doesn't have a case, he said. But people like her don't need a case, they just want to drain your energy until you fold. And honestly? It was working. I started having dreams about her voice again. That chirpy, honey-dripping tone she used when she said things like, "Sweetie, you're just not emotionally mature enough for adult conversation." My counselor told me it was trauma resurfacing. Like phantom pain. Juliette wasn't in the house anymore, but she was still haunting it. Then she made the mistake of going public. She posted a long video on a brand new social media account under the name at Step Queen Rebuilds. It was clearly a soft launch for a comeback attempt. She filmed it in a sterile white kitchen that definitely wasn't hers. Tears in her eyes. Voice trembling. I gave everything to a man and his grieving daughter. I tried so hard to be their light, their second chance. But some people can't let go of the past, and they punished me for it. She never named us, but it wasn't hard for mutual acquaintances to connect the dots. The video got a few thousand views. Mostly sympathy from random strangers who only saw a pretty woman with teary mascara and a trembling lip. But one comment stood out. It said, "Aren't you the woman from that viral Reddit story? The one who got caught abusing her stepdaughter on tape?" LMAO. She deleted the comment within minutes. But not before I screenshot it. Then came the retaliation. She sent a message to my part-time job's email account claiming I was unstable, a thief, and a documented liar. Said I had a history of violent outbursts and targeted a mother figure due to jealousy and unresolved grief. It came from an anonymous burner Gmail. But the phrasing was so her. My boss called me into the back room, handed me a printed copy, and said, "I know this is crap. But if she shows up here, I'll call the police." I nodded. Then I went home and added the email to the growing archive. My dad was unraveling. Not because he missed her, that spell was broken. But because of the guilt. He couldn't believe he'd let someone like her into our lives. That he'd asked me to call her mom. "I don't know who I was," he told me once, holding his head in his hands. "It's like I was hypnotized." I didn't say anything. What do you say to someone who sold you out for comfort? He tried to fix it with money. He replaced the laptop she'd wiped when she left. Bought me a car for school. Paid my therapy bills in full. But none of it really touched the thing inside me that still felt cracked. Until one night, he knocked on my door and handed me an envelope. Inside was a journal. Not mine. Mom's. He found it in a sealed box in the attic, under layers of Juliette's discarded junk. "She used to write when she couldn't sleep," he said quietly. "I thought you should have it." I opened it later that night. Inside were pages and pages of my mother's handwriting, her thoughts, dreams, frustrations, and moments of fierce, unshakable love. One entry hit me like a truck. "Riley has my fire. She'll burn down the world if someone tries to take what's hers." I cried. Not the shaking, helpless kind of crying. But the hard, clear kind. Cleansing. Mom wasn't gone. Not really. Juliette never won. She never stood a chance. A few weeks later, the lawsuit was dropped. Her lawyer withdrew counsel. Translation: Juliette either ran out of money or was too impossible to work with. No apology. No settlement. Just silence. She vanished from the internet again. And this time? I let her. Because ghosts don't deserve closure. They deserve to fade. Life didn't return to normal after Juliette. Because there wasn't any normal to return to. There was only what came after. And for the first time in a long time, what came after didn't scare me. Senior year ended quietly. No drama. No more fake smiles at family parties. No one looking at me like I was the broken girl with the dead mom and the evil stepmonster. People stopped whispering. Some even apologized, neighbors, cousins, classmates. A few sent me awkward texts. Didn't realize how bad it was. You good? I didn't reply to most. I wasn't interested in rehashing the wreckage. I wasn't bitter, I was just done. Done playing defense. Done trying to make other people understand things they weren't willing to see when it mattered. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had truth. That was enough. The house felt different now. I kept my mom's things where I wanted them, not as a shrine, but as anchors. Her plant was thriving in the window. Her old radio still played Fleetwood Mac when I cooked. Her voice, through her journal, reminded me of who I came from. One day I reread the final pages she wrote before she died. One line stood out. Grief doesn't ask permission. But strength is a decision. And I finally understood. She wasn't trying to teach me how to be tough. She was reminding me I already was. College acceptance came in the spring. University of Michigan. Full ride. Creative writing program. I found out on a Saturday. Told my dad that night while we ate takeout. He didn't cry. But he looked at me with this strange mix of awe and guilt and something like pride. He said, "Your mom would be so proud." For the first time in over a year, I said it out loud. I know. The day I moved out was quiet. I packed my car with too many books, too many plants, and a playlist of songs Mom loved. Dad helped me load everything, and before I pulled out of the driveway, he handed me an envelope. I waited until I was halfway to campus to open it. Inside was a note. Just a few lines, written in his barely legible all-caps handwriting. You saved yourself. But I'm grateful you let me watch. I'm learning. I won't stop. There was a small silver key taped to the back. The key to the lockbox in the hall closet, the one Juliette always kept shut. He said he found it while cleaning, and it was mine now. Inside that box? More than just trinkets. There were receipts. Notes. Little fragments of a woman who had tried to rewrite my story, and failed. It was like she'd kept trophies of what she stole. Photos. Torn up poems. Even one of Mom's scarves. I threw it all in a garbage bag. Drove to a rest stop. Lit the whole thing on fire in a trash barrel behind a gas station, one match at a time. It felt good. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just done. But the story doesn't end there. Because 2 months into school, I got a message. Not from Juliette. From a stranger. A girl named Camden. She DM'd me on Instagram. Hi. I know this is super random, and I totally understand if you ignore this. But, did your dad used to be married to a woman named Juliette? My chest tightened. I replied, yes. Why? She answered. I think she's dating my dad now. And some of what you said in that Reddit post sounds really familiar. I stared at the screen. My ears rang. Camden told me Juliette had resurfaced under a slightly different name, Jules now. Same smile. Same sob story. Widower boyfriend. A new troubled daughter in the house, her. She was 15. I'm not sure anyone would believe me, Camden said. So I told her, I believe you. Start recording. Start documenting. Keep yourself safe. Then I sent her the same encrypted app one used. And a list of phrases Juliette used on me, the exact same ones Camden said she was hearing. We've kept in touch since. And I think that's the real end of this story. Juliette didn't win. She didn't disappear. But she didn't get to rewrite me either. Instead, I became her undoing. The thing she thought she could mold, erase, or manipulate, that thing fought back. And now I've passed the torch. So, am I the asshole for destroying my stepmother's life at a family party? People still DM me and ask that. They ask if I regret anything. If I'd do it differently. If I think I went too far. The truth? No. I didn't destroy her life. She did that all by herself. I just hit play. And the only thing I regret is not hitting it sooner.